welcome to another episode of Safety Management with walieyullah. Today we'll be going into process safety and we'll be discussing about risk management techniques. In one of our videos we discussed about one of the barrier models, that is the switches models, which we discussed and enlightened us about how the switches model operates, putting barriers in place, and when there is a loophole in the form of the holes in the cheese, each cheese serves as a barrier from the beginning, a gradual barrier till the last end, in order, that is from the moment of releasing of a toxic release or release of anything that can lead to an accident or a fire, to the end stage where it will actually get to the final to the final situation, whereby you have to have emergency situations in place. That is the final event that could happen, a catastrophe that could happen. So the switches model actually talks about if the holes can align together, each deficiency in each system each barrier being put in place, there are deficiencies which forms the loophole. So if there's a situation whereby the loopholes can link together and there will be a straight way in which there could be release and it will actually get to the final stage. But in real life situations, we need to put all those barriers in place to identify that this is what is the switches model, and that's what the basic thing that the switch model talks about. Meanwhile, remember, I've said in that video, not all those barriers need to be in place before an accident can happen. There might be a barrier, and still, when there's a release, it will still lead to a catastrophe. So not all barriers will be active to prevent every form of casualty or any form of accident. To learn more about the switches model, kindly go to our YouTube videos and search for switches model. Today we'll be talking about hazard realization, and it's part of the risk assessment techniques that we have, apart from the general ones that we know about. That is normal job hazard analysis. Now in the process industries, we have a lot of procedures being put in place for hazard realization, and part of it is the switch model, which is the barrier model, and we also have the one what we call the BOE Tie model. So first, let us talk about hazard realization. Like I said, these are new models being used apart from the regular ones that we know. In this kind of system, we are trying to identify hazards and we are trying to look at what if. We are looking at the worst case scenario, what could happen to the system, in which the assessor, who is the risk assessor, is acting, we act like a prophet of doom. Yeah, like someone that wants bad things to happen, but for good reasons. Like, what if there is a sudden gas leak beside where there is fire, beside a location where there is fire? So all these things, we now start asking the issue of what. We are asking about what, we are asking about where, we are asking about how, we are asking about why, we are asking about the potential outcomes. What could happen? What's the worst case scenario that could happen? Where can it happen? So when we know the issue of where, we can address how we will go to address it. So here comes the issue of how can it happen? It may be there is poor maintenance system in place, maybe there is no detection system in place. A lot of things might trigger it to be escalated. The issue of how we can address the issue of overfilling of tanks, vessels. Many things can happen that can lead to us asking the issue of how, and the potential outcome can be oil spillage, it can be an issue of explosion. A lot of things can happen that can lead to the accident happening. So what BOE Tie model does is this: based on the design and the way it looks at an initiating event. That is what could happen when you walk through your hazard realization. Then the barriers can be identified. What do I mean there? I mean, as you are walking through your hazard realization, then you know which barrier to put in place. For example, when you have an initiating event that could happen, maybe a toxic release, then we now have the consequence. Okay, this is an event that could happen. There can be a toxic release, and these are the consequences. What are those things to put in place? Those things to put in place will include barriers for the initiating event and barriers for the consequences. Then in the middle will be the release, because you are preventing it from happening. You are preventing the initiating event. You are either preventing it from happening, or when it happens, you are trying to reduce the effect. to mitigate the effect, to reduce it. So that's how the bow tie model works. In further explanation, when we are talking about the bow tie model, like I said, you have an initiating event and you have a consequence, and you have in between them, close to the initiating event, you have your barriers put in place to prevent it from happening. Mostly it has to do with from the design stage, like you are talking about your plant layout, your plant designs, you're talking about the construction standards that you are using, you're talking about the instrumentations that you are using. Those ones are the barriers for the initiating event, and mostly it is the fault tree. We have the fault tree, we have the event tree. Not event tree, event tree. That's the event that can happen. We have the fault tree. So that's why we have fault tree and event tree in our bow tie model. So at the fault tree, we have the issue of plant layout, we have the issue of construction standard, we have the issue of inspection, things that could prevent the accident from happening. Okay, in the case it now happens, what are those controls put in place to prevent it from escalating? Now we now have the issue of detection system. When there's already a fire issue or there's already a gas detection, we can have smoke detection, we can have fume detection system, you can have spill detection, that is, you can have chemical detection system that could detect any chemicals. You have the issue of emergency shutdown in case there is a serious issue and we have to do a sudden shutdown. Emergency shutdown is also part of what inventory analysis that falls under the consequences that could happen. That's the barrier to mitigate the effect. Then we also have the issue of active protection. When we're talking about active protection, we are talking about the fire system, the fire emergency system, the daily system, the firefighting system we put in place. We're talking about passive protection. We are talking about the walls, the intermittent walls being put in place to prevent the fire from getting to contain the fire within a particular place. So this is an example of passive control system. They are not actually extinguishing the fire, but they are reducing the spread of the fire. And we have the issue of emergency evacuation and rescue. That is EER, emergency escape routes. We're talking about evacuation routes. We are talking about how do we rescue those that are being trapped into the accident. So that is how it goes. Remember, in your bow tie, we have the initiating event, you have the consequence. In your initiating event, you have the inventory. That is those things that will prevent the events from happening. Sorry, we have the fault tree. Fault tree is those things that could prevent the event from happening at all. So that is the issue from the design stage, how we put the design in place for the plant layout, the construction standard, the instrumentation. Then we now have, in case there is a release, which is the center. Then we now have the consequences, which will now have the inventory, which will now talk about the emergency system being put in place in order to reduce the escalation. So the first stage about fault actually talks about preventing, while inventory talks about how we are going to mitigate and reduce the effect. So that about the bow tie. So when you see the bow tie, you see it looks like a normal bow tie that we wear. So that is what it contains. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Statement with walieyullah. Do continue to enjoy us, to continue to listen to us. If you have questions, you can ask on the comment section. If you have additions, subtractions, please let us all learn together. Remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Remember to share this video to other safety professionals. Even if you're not a safety professional, bow tie analysis is being used in many management systems. We have all this. We have like physics model. We have a lot of them that we use in creating barriers and other realization. All those things being put in place. So remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. My saliva is already dry. So do have a lovely week ahead. Let's continue to enjoy ourselves and stay safe. Safety first, safety always.